So welcome back. This is the third part. So we call it part three. Yeah, welcome to the part three of this award-winning PhD, thesis. All right, so let's go. Let's get started. Part three. All right, so now here we're gonna talk about the data presentation and analysis. So here, this chapter provides a thorough explanation of how the current GI situation is assessed. All right, so and then evaluated and explains the main conclusions of the data gathered, from the field work using questionnaire and of course key personal interview forms. So, all right, using straightforward frequency and percentage distribution tables, of analysis. The respondent demographic profiles or traits were also displayed in tabular forms and charts. So the analysis and discussion, which are related to this research objective, are also discussed here to obtain answers. These questions, the question for this research were also addressed, to ascertain the validity of the work. Okay, so green infrastructure component using selected open spaces. The first objective, they study, the summary of the 12 components under the three categorization and distribution within the, study area. So what are the three various categories that we identified, for this study? I told you there were three categories, right? So there were the green gray, the green gray, of course the green blue areas within the selected settlement. Yeah, this will determine that Ikeja has the greenest area of about 1.12 million meter square area, followed by Festac, of course Ilupeju, and then Lagos Island has a total of 4,691 meter square entirely green area. So it shows Ikeja has the greenest area, following the data that we got from this study. So this is the map showing the various point of interest, and of course the gray area can be seen in green patches, okay, and then the gray blue can actually also be seen in the gray blue patches like here, and the various point of interest are visibly shown, all right, in red, and the road, of course the existing road, have visibly also shown in gray, as can be seen in this map. So we have this map for the four selected settlement here. We can also see the green blue, the green gray, and then of course the green patches of open spaces, and these are visibly shown seen in this map, and then the gray blue, and of course the point of interest, and then the water pattern, the drainage direction of water within the various settlement, of course. And this is the map showing Ilupeju and the various categories of green infrastructure identified for this study. And this is the map showing the Festac down, also following the same procedure of identifying the three key GI components of green, gray, and of course this is the green component, can be seen clearly here. The green gray are here, these patches, green gray, and of course the green blue. All this can be seen, green blue, along the corridor of this drainage. Those are green blue. All right, so now the result shows that the summary of the three key components of green, gray, and green blue within the scope of this study shows that Ikeja has the highest area, or that's, we stated that for the existing greenery, and then the settlement also has the highest green gray component. Of course, this is Ikeja GRA, and of course this is Lagos Highland, left far behind following the data, the findings from the site. All right, so now why Festac has the highest composition of the green blue component, followed by Ilupeju, Ikeja, GRA, and Lagos Highland have what? The least of these categories. So other components are entirely gray concretized component, which are, of course, which are the highest in Lagos Highland. Of what you can see clearly, that's the highest in Lagos Highland here in this map. That's the others. Others are the other component, like the concretized, we call it the concrete jungle, component, yeah, which is the others, the gray area. Is you can see how enormous, how massive it is, in Lagos Island, which is about 98% of the total settlement. It's quite huge. 98% of the total settlement, which is 6.7 million, in terms of the total area that we got. All right, so that's it. Now we go ahead to the various research and the findings. Objective one. This is the map. This is the chart showing the relationship between the open space covers and of course the selected settlement. The chart is showing the variance. This is obviously this is Lagos Highland, Ikeja, and then this is the blue total distance, boundary distance of the settlement. Yeah, we call it total boundary distance. And then the total settlement area, of course, you see Festac has the the most land area. Festac has the most land area, followed by Lagos Highland, and of course Ilupeju and Ikeja GRA has the least according to the study. So yeah, so quickly let's go to the second objective, which is the usability, GI usability within the open spaces of selected Lagos metropolis. So this objective, the second objective, explore the perception of the users, the perception of Lagos, residents, the people of Lagos. All right, of the users of the open spaces in the study area. So the result of this study also demonstrated the importance of the psychological well-being, enjoyment, civic engagement, self-confidence, and of course psychological equilibrium of the people, and then interpersonal skill and the control over oneself and event, cognitive ability, and the psychosocial climate within those various settlements that we identified for this study, in explaining the social networking, of course, amongst the residents, the workers, the traders, and of course the park users. This is very important. So we also went further to following the same workflow. This approach is commonly used statistically for assessing global economies, and of course aids in classifying nations according to their level of economic development and of course the growth of a city. So the study revealed the income level of the respondents. This is the chart showing the demographic distribution of the various respondents according to their age groups. Age groups are stated in the table. This is the chart, the table showing the gender distribution of both male and female. A total of 397 respondents responded to this questionnaire, and this is the table showing the gender distribution of the respondents. All right, so this table is showing the existing land use in selected Lagos metropolis, and then the various land use were actually categorized according to the settlement pattern, which is mixed use, development, residential, commercial, retail, of course, religious, office, and administrative settlement pattern. So a total of 397 respondents also responded to the questionnaire, and then we this the statistics of the questionnaire is stated in this table. All right, so now the study shows the respondents' income level, which is about 38%, are in the low income class. 38% of the people within the settlement. 38% is quite, it's quite massive. There's a lot of people are really, really poor, low income, and then 35.6%, which is the lower middle income class. That's most people, the landlords, the homeowners around there, they're categorized as the lower, middle income class. And only about 9.7 of the respondents are in the category of the high income class. Less than 10% of the total respondents, are in the category of the high income people that we could say, oh, this guy, the rich guy, this guy that owns, maybe luxury apartment. Just about, 10% of them, responded, to this study. All right, so so it shows that respondent in the category of the high income class in the city that is likely to use the open spaces for leisure, social activities, and fitness work. Very little. The number of people is so super small, and these are people that are likely to use these parks. Because there are people that have money, probably in quotes, and they have the time to probably relax if they want to relax, as compared to the people that are basically working the all day workers, that want to make ends meet, that, pretty, they don't have enough time, to even relax at all. So let's see how it goes. So this is the feedback we got from site, and this, we categorize according to their income level, the low income, the lower middle, the upper middle income, and of course the high income. You can see clearly, 38%, low income, 35% low, lower middle, and of course, 16.5%, the upper middle income, and the high income is just less than 10%. All right, so let's go. And then we also categorize the respondent according to their income condition. We did before according to their employment status. All right, and then this fell under five categorizations actually. They're the full-time worker, the part-time worker, temporary worker, on-call worker, independent contractor. So we did this categorization to identify the people that are likely to even use this park. All right, how busy are they? What's their employment status? So that's what we got from this data. All right, so we also did an appraisal of the displacement of people, following the level of residents displacement around the parks. Over the years, we observed that some people have actually lost their homes, because some of the open spaces are being taken over, for development. It's still happening, and it's happening right now in an alarming rate, So the employment categorization shows that the full-time workers are the highest population of residents, which is about 34.4 of the total study area. But this doesn't determine their earning income capacity. The fact that they are working and they're working full-time, it doesn't this determine their earning capacity, while the part-time workers are followed by just about 31.2. And this category of city dwellers is not likely to visit the open spaces. Just the part-time workers, they're actually not likely to, because from our findings, they are regularly, because of the unstructured work schedule. Because they have unstructured work schedule, they are not likely to visit the parks. Obviously they are not. They don't have a structured work schedule, they don't have a structured living pattern, so they're not likely to be in the park. That's it. So, and this is just about 31%. So So the additional level of severity is high impact, which is about 26. So quickly, let's go. For example, the interruption of essential ecosystem functioning is being affected, or the major urban space, component is degrading to the point where it affects the metropolis. Yeah, we stated this before. So we also rated, a high impact, major impact, and of course low impact. There were also various categorizations that we minor impact, of course, which indicates the small or confined impact of the urban intervention. So, and then we also rated it as a significant impact. It's about 1.17, which denotes little to no environmental impact. When we did a study of how the displacement of people has impacted the ecological patterns of the open spaces. So we rated these as significant impacts, major impacts, high impacts, minor impacts, and then we observed that there's quite a high level of variance in our findings. The variance is quite much. All right, so the study identified that the total mixed use buildings were 113. The commercial buildings were 196, and then of course the administrative building were 32, and residential buildings were only 68. Only 68 within the study area. So quickly we go to the third objective, which is the status or the condition of the green infrastructure component within the open spaces. So this quantitative approach retrieved 112 online surveys from users and of course visitors living within the study area. So a total of 112 responses were retrieved. And for this research updated toward assessing the impact of green infrastructure principle as they relate to the open outdoor spaces. All right, so let's go quickly. The question on the condition of the open spaces, and the respondents, it also varies. About 31 females responded, and 31% responded, and 68% of male responded respectively. So the age cut across all age groups, just like the first two objectives. The responses we got cut across all the age groups. So this is it. This is a pie chart showing the respondents according to age and respondents according to gender. Here the chart showing responded according to the marital status. We try to get this data because we want to know the people that use the park more, are they single, are they married? Just to know, this is not so super important, right? Anyone could use the park, but we just want to know, we want to know the marital status, because sometimes you just get so curious that there's some things that may not be so significant, but then you need to know just for the record purpose. So, and then it shows that about 80% of the people that use the park are actually married, and then only 20% are unmarried. We are of course single. All right, so we also did the categorization according to the present condition of the selected settlement, and people also responded according to their perception of the present condition of the parks, and some said they are satisfied with the current state of the park. Some said of course they are not satisfied. Some said they are very, very satisfied. Some are very unsatisfied. So and then this, you can see the variance. It's quite it's also massive, from 37 percent to 28% to 10.7 very satisfactory to 7 unsatisfactory, and then 16 just undecided. They were not sure, indifferent. They couldn't even say whether it's good or not. So let's go. All right. Results showing this count also shows the reason for visiting the open spaces within the park, of course within the metropolis. So you can see when people came up with their various feedbacks, and then to tell us why they use these open spaces. Some say to us that home stress, when they are stressed at home, pressure from work, recreation, of course, relaxation, loneliness, neighbor stress. Some say when they are stressed by their neighbor or by their neighbors around, they run to the park to relax. Boredom, exercise. And obviously, many people visit the open spaces. Many people visit the park, to exercise, to work out, to do things for fitness work. Fitness work, that's what they do. All right, so 41% responded by saying that's what they do at the park. Of course, why the closest response we got said that it's due to boredom, which is also about 25%. And then the next is home stress. Maybe when they are stressed at home, they run to the park, to relax, which is about 6.3%. So the reason for visiting the open spaces and parks within the metropolis. Actually, this data is very, very important. And then in the future, we're gonna do justice to this, because this is gonna lead to the framework that will lead to the revitalizing of those parks. Because we must encourage people to exercise. We must encourage people to come and, he's there, when they are bored, we want them to come around. When they are home stressed, we want people to come use the park, right? All right, so this findings is so critical, going forward in ensuring that we have, a sustainable, park system, within the metropolis. Yeah, so let's go. So the survey uncovered the reason for the usage of the open spaces and how often the residents use them, how much time they stay there, and finally, with who do they spend time whenever they visit the park? Of course, whenever they visit the parks, of course, the garden. So 41% of the respondents affirmed that they frequently visit the parks mainly for what? For exercise. 25% stated that they visit the park due to boredom, and 3.6 stated that they use the park whenever they are lonely, and of course they want to go relax there, so they go there to relax actually. All right, so that's it. So let's go. All right, so we also did the count of the necessity of GI within the open spaces of the residential estate, and of course the neighborhood within the estate. And a majority of people say that, it's quite necessary that they need the sparks within the open spaces of the residential estate. 70% stated that they need, there should be open spaces, well-planned GI infrastructure within the residential neighborhoods, of course, residential estates. Yeah, and 24% said that no, they really don't need it. They really don't care about having parks within their settlements. Yeah. All right, so we also did a rating of the present state of the GI component, in the outdoor open spaces, and then people stated many things. Of course, they rated it, facility, the current condition of the facilities, recreation facility, the current condition of the trees, the landscape design, the water features, of course, the general ambience all around. And then we did the general perception and feedback of the resident on the state and necessity of visiting the outdoor open park. All right, so they also came up with so many feedback, stating that the general sanitation, it should be mandatory for people for use, or some say they do not have any. Some say there are none. There's none in my estate or in my within my streets. Okay, so that's it. All right, we go to the fourth objective, the eco benefit of GI component within the open spaces of selected settlements. So here we strictly use the high tree model, to assess the eco benefit of the open spaces of the selected settlement, whereby we identified about 3,000, 33,000 rather, 33,000 trees, an average of 33,000 trees within each of the settlements. All right, in each of the settlement, and this varies accordingly. Yeah, yeah, but then slight variance. But then the model was able to identify an average of 33,000 trees. So the tree benefit values and ecosystem services, the benefit of the tree cover, and of course the urban trees, the low carbon, the sustainable environment within the context of biodiversity conservation, considering the carbon storage, carbon sequestration, the hydrological effect, the pollution removal. All this I stated before, and we're gonna see all this statistically. This chart shows the annual carbon storage according to the settlements, using the high tree echo we deployed. I think for this particular objective in the future, we're gonna discuss how to use high tree echo, in getting all these various ecological services. And then of course the various benefits, various eco benefit. Now what are these benefits actually? They are, the carbon storage values, the carbon sequestration values, hydrological effect, the pollution remover, oxygen production, and of course the VOCs, various VOCs. We know various VOCs that right there in the atmosphere, So in the future, we're gonna discuss this more. So, but then for now, let's just go on and then proceed and just see some of the charts and understand the various dynamics and the various values that we were able to get during the study. This chart shows the annual carbon sequestration of trees in selected settlement. This shows the annual carbon storage. There's difference between carbon storage and of course carbon sequestration. All right, so in the future, we're also gonna discuss this. All right, so let's go. All right, so this chart shows the oxygen, production by stratum, annual oxygen production of selected settlement. While this, chart shows the annual VOC emission of selected settlement, various VOC isoprene and then a monotripene and monotropine of the tree species. This cause varies actually. It also varies within the various settlement. Now the chart here shows the annual hydrological effect, various effects of potential evapotranspiration, of course transpiration, and the effect of the sizes of the leaves, which has effect on the water pattern, hydrological pattern within each of the settlements. So the trees and the shrubs in the selected settlement help to reduce runoff, of course, but estimated, 2.3 thousand, cubic meter a year, with an associated value, as stated here. So Ikeja has the highest runoff at, 38%, followed by Festac at 32%, and then Lagos Highland has the least. Lagos Highland has the least runoff, at 12, just at about 12%. And then avoided runoff is estimated based on local weather, from the user designated weather station. Most of these, data we got from the high tree echo model. The echo model helped us, assisted the study, to getting this data, and this also subjected to the current, weather station, that we used for the study. All right, so your result, the various results of the air pollution benefits, the air pollution estimates based on the various values, and in the currency, the USD. We just use USD, and now approximated some of the values, that we got. All right, so the fifth objective is the urban design model, right? For GI planning, okay, for GI planning and within the open spaces of the selected settlement in Lagos metropolis. So we quickly, look at this. The Lagos Highland, how we got this data previously, and then how do we use this data, to come up with an effective urban design model. And this chapter, we're also going to discuss this in the future. how does this data translate to urban development? How does it translate to design? And how does the design translate, to physical development of the city? Yeah, because it's not enough to get in the data. It's not enough to get in, feedback from people. These things are still there. How do you solve the problems that we've identified? How does this translate to a model, urban design model? So that's what this objective, a research objective 5 is, as actually answered. So we got this model, and then we will see how we were able to translate this into we did a simulation of the various city, and then we finally got so many feedbacks as to how this can actually be practical in reality, how this can be built, how we can use the problems, I use urban design in solving community problems. So that's what we got for that objective. So this table shows the biophysical contribution of vegetation and of course the green canopy cover through simulation with the eco model. So this study came up with a summary. The study presented a summary of the relationship between exposure to green landscape, mental health outcome, which greatly advances the comprehension of the function of green spaces in Lagos psychological awareness. So the findings also shows that various modified open spaces within the urban form elicit unique preference, psychological reaction, and connection to the city, All right, so that's it. So the study identified GI component within the open spaces, of selected segment, taking statistical inventory of the green, gray, green, blue categories, and then of course the open spaces in the selected settlement. So the study explored connection between biological, cultural variety, and examined the relationship between green areas. And the thesis has demonstrated how the kind and standard of open spaces that community have may significantly and sustainably affect the health and well-being of those community, and of course the people within the community, because design is all about the people, right? It's all about the people. So you gotta solve the community problem, you gotta solve the people's problem, and it's all about their well-being. So recommendation: there's a need to increase the number of urban trees to a minimum of 5,000 annually in each of the settlements. And then contribution to knowledge: the study ends by highlighting the practicality of the sustainable low carbon concept within the landscape, and of course the built environment pedagogy, as well as the inclusive landscape regeneration of open spaces. The study the current changes in Lagos urban spatial configuration, urban planning, physical redevelopment, landscape restoration, social development framework, and of course the social economic master plan were further shown and assessed in this dissertation. The specific contribution to knowledge made by this research is stated below. The study established the different counts of GI components across the various categories. The study developed a blueprint for adopting GI component in Lagos State. The study empirically tested the usage of hydroecho as a baseline for calculating Lagos Metropolis yearly carbon sequestration index. The study design and urban simulation design approach through a continuous urban tree planting to enhance Lagos carbon credit, trading, foreign investment, and revenue generation. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. So we're gonna do justice into to some of those objectives in the future. We'll make it a robust, rich lecture series that will be discussing each of the objectives, and then we look at the philosophy that drives some of this objective, and how can we localize these objectives into our real-time situation. How do we localize this? How can we implement it within the spectrum of Lagos, Abuja, big cities around sub-Saharan Africa? Because it's about solving the problem of Africa, solving the problem within our microclimate, some problems that are unique, here. How do we reduce the atmospheric temperature? How do we reduce it, by 1.5 degrees Celsius, in the next 4 years. But I think it's possible, it's doable, and we can achieve it. You and I can get this done. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. See you guys. Bye.